We're in week 1 of 2 back-to-back event weeks for WWE, and we've gotten used to a pattern of the go-home shows being pretty lackluster. However, with WWE making so many unexpected, exciting changes across both main roster TV shows since the start of the new year, should we continue to expect this aspect to also improve, or is that asking for too much too soon? I don't know, but let me go ahead and run the music to get this started, and we can discuss.
Step into the ring, let the chaos commence. Sushi got the move, and you feel the suspense and grappling, slamming the crowd, getting louder. We suplex the statement, we're making them proud. Champions ride, but legends never fade. Underneath the spotlight, we ain't never played. Fire ignited, we dance in the war. Enemies tremble, can you hear the roar?
Oh, yeah, here we go, here it again. From the sacrifice, boring we don't see. Oh yeah, the clock's ticking.
It is the first event week for WWE in 2026, with Saturday night's main event coming up this Saturday, January 24th. As I've mentioned before, the WWE event schedule is fairly stacked at the end of this month, with that and then Royal Rumble immediately next Saturday, January 31st. Anyone who has been tuning into this podcast knows I've been pretty impressed with both WWE main roster TV shows since the start of 2026, even though I've been pretty critical of their production throughout 2025, especially with SmackDown and some of the PLEs. I'm hoping everything that's been set up not only comes to fruition, but also that the excitement towards the different feuds and storylines also helps carry us through what are typically more weak offerings of SmackDown and Raw over this and the next week. With that said, let's move on to this week's coverage. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to hit me up on social media, or there should be a link in the description to shoot me a text. SmackDown, January 16th in London, England. Last week, SmackDown continued the show's recent trend as far as delivering way above expectations compared to last year. While the start of the year gave us a preview of things to come, last week we saw some great matches featuring returning and new talent to SmackDown, and the only complaints I really had are the ones that seem to carry into this week as well. But given that we're still faced with basically 2 go-home shows, one arguably for Saturday night's main event this coming Saturday, followed by one for Royal Rumble the following, can SmackDown maintain this momentum as we're nearing the first of those 2 weeks? Let's find out. No cons for the episode. Let's start off with, can we please end the Wyatt Six versus MFT feud? I'm really tired of it, and I don't need video vignettes. There's 2 this week regarding the feud and in-ring stuff that happens during the program. In fact, the more WWE seems to do this type of stuff, the more it seems they have no idea where to go from here. Seriously, by now they've had 1 of 2 matches. I was getting excited this might be over when I thought Uncle Howdy was about to get the lantern back this week, but Tala had a ruin for me, damn it. Well, the upside is, it's been teased that maybe Tama Tonga might be questioning his involvement with the MFT, given his recent angle with Shinsuke Nakamura getting in his head. Regardless of whether this results in a split with Tama, either going solo or teaming up with Shinsuke as a tag team, I'll be excited since I know that a lot of his fans feel like the WWE has underutilized him given his impressive career over in Japan. Next item, I'm concerned about where creative is going with the Char-Alexa tag team. I mean, sure, a lot of it is because they've recently had Bliss lined up for a women's US Championship match out of nowhere, but then in this episode they had Nia Jax and Lash Legend trying to get in their head and have her question her friendship and partnership with Charlotte. I guess the upside to this, basically a compliment to creative, is I'm starting to believe that this could go either way. Next, I'm glad she's no longer in a tag team feud with Chelsea Green, but I honestly feel like WWE doesn't know what to do with Julia nor the Women's US Championship at this time. I mean, at least Kiana James kind of works as a manager type character for Julia, but who should Julia really be facing as a new rival? Or how can WWE freshen up the competition for the Women's US Championship overall? It's only been about 2 weeks since Julia won the US title back from Chelsea, so I haven't had enough time to come up with any ideas myself. What I can say is The only 2 matches she's been in involved Alexa Bliss, last week in a solo match, and now this week in a tag team match with Kiana against Alexa and Charlotte, which I don't think is working and probably shouldn't be pursued any further. This ties in with the last Oh No item too, since I really think they're wasting time having Bliss take on Julia in any form, unless you just plan on keeping Bliss and Charlotte together and occasionally having them in a tag team against Julia and Kiana. Moving on to Ooh Yeah, pros for the episode. It's only been a week since Drew McIntyre won the undisputed WWE Championship, and things are already looking up. I honestly thought Drew was going to break kayfabe and be really grateful for his welcome in London, but I love that he still made his way back around to insulting and claiming that the audience has never supported him. I may not be able to stand when he's whiny and ungrateful, competing against other wrestlers like he did with Cody, but weirdly, I absolutely love when he's just coming up with great ways to mess with the crowd. This was an amazing swerve. I'm putting my notes together. I really noticed how some of the other Ooh Yeah talking points to follow are also connected or somehow kind of a result of this recent title change too. So moving on. Qualifying matches for the Fatal 4-Way match for the undisputed WWE Championship. Love those. I hated the Cody versus Drew feud while they were in the middle of it, but I do think the upside to WWE going overboard with trying to make it seem so intense and disruptive is that with Drew not really winning the title clean due to Jacob interfering, it gives us an excuse to have a Fatal 4-Way at Saturday Night's Main Event to decide the number 1 contender and the lead-up qualifying matches. So that's cool. The actual matches that went on were Randy Orton versus The Miz, Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa, Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov, and Trick Williams versus Matt Cardona. Overall, I just felt like these matches were a good way to reshuffle some talent around, or at minimum, just keep them relevant while they work on how to reposition them across the different storylines. Matches are great, but I especially enjoy the Trick Williams versus Matt Cardona and the Damian Priest versus Solo Sikoa matches. Also had a good laugh watching the Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov match because it was like Dragunov had to bleed to maintain intensity in a match that he wasn't going to win, which I thought was funny. Also, bonus points to Trick for really adding to character building by following through exactly how you'd expect someone like him to. Sneak attacking Sammy as the guy celebrating his qualifying match win. Honestly, I foresee some great laughs coming through this feud, just given how hilarious Trick is just selling everything. Moving on, a little bit of Kit Wilson is more than enough. He wasn't on for very long, so I don't have very much to say, but again, I think making Matt Cardona the target of his toxic masculinity finger pointing is perfect. And my girlfriend Ashley can't stop singing that damn song, Kit's new entrance theme. Next item. I love this heat around Jacob Fatu versus Cody Rhodes. Another storyline resulting from Drew's recent undisputed WWE Championship win is obviously Cody holding Jacob at least partially responsible for his loss. Like I brought up last week, Cody could have easily waited for Jacob to take his revenge out on Drew and capitalized on the moment. Instead, he chose to attack Jacob for interrupting his match, even seeing how close Drew was to the exit. I'd say this is a good pivot for Cody because if Creative wants to reposition away from being like a Boy Scout or pure babyface character, and honestly, given how much WWE seems to focus in on moments where Drew was pointing out he wouldn't deny attacking Jacob if he was the one who actually did it, I almost feel like this is some kind of setup to hold someone else responsible. While a part of me really wants the culprit to be Cody, I honestly don't feel like WWE would make him pivot this much from his current character, but hey, we've definitely been proven wrong lately, right? The next item, U.S. Championship Open Challenge is still going on strong. This week's match with Carmelo Hayes defending against TNA X Division champion Leon Slater was an awesome surprise. I'll admit that I probably watch and keep up with TNA less than both WWE and AEW, but there's no way anyone who has seen TNA over the past year should be unaware of Leon Slater. So it's been good to see the WWE partnership between TNA and NXT extend to like the main roster shows now as well. I definitely didn't think Slater was going to win, but regardless, this was a great match and I really don't have anything negative to say about it. even if I didn't think there was potential for the title to change hands, both of the guys had a great match, and it just served to elevate each of their profiles. Dragunov did such a good job making the open challenge, just a great place to see newer, under-featured talent, and I think Mello is making the right move continuing that. Last item, having Jordan Grace defeat Chelsea Green while Jade Cargill watches ringside is an obvious buildup, and I love it. Any idiot could see that this was a clear setup for Jordan versus Jade, but I'm more hoping that this kind of triangle feud pans out between Jordan, Jade, and Chelsea. I honestly don't even mind if Chelsea is purely in the story just for comedic effect. The episode's incident with Chelsea trying to sneak attack Jordan, but unintentionally hitting Jade was hilarious. Seriously, just check out the highlight on YouTube. Pay special attention to Chelsea's face after it happens, after she's flopped down in the corner of the ring. Also, Jordan's entrance music seriously gets me amped. So, that's always a bonus when you have somebody new who's coming in and moving up the ranks. And closing for SmackDown, pretty entertaining episode, given how much of it was building towards matches and payoffs to happen on Saturday night's main event this coming Saturday and the Royal Rumble the following Saturday. I thought we'd for sure be in for a lot of filler, but most of the filler actually just revolved around the Y6 versus MST, which I suppose is fine since that whole feud has been a disappointment and we're just ready for that now. Let's just hope that the show maintains steam next week, as it'll be the actual go-home show for Saturday night's main event, where 2 of the 3 scheduled matches feature pretty much the top of the SmackDown men's division. Raw, January 19th in Belfast, Northern Ireland. It's the week of Saturday night's main event, and whenever we're dealing with a go-home show, it seems like we either spend a good amount of time having inconsequential matches, and or we deal with a lot of video montages and in-ring promos that really just serve to heat things up for the event itself. Even if we definitely can't say Raw has been awful within the past few weeks, I have been pointing out how much effort and progress WWE has been making as far as handling criticism towards SmackDown, which I'd argue, most fans might think seems fresher than anything's going on currently at Raw. All I know is if WWE manages to ace these 2 weeks of go-home shows leading into Saturday night's main event and Royal Rumble, respectively, it'll definitely do a lot to at least convince me that the company's trying to listen to fans a bit more than their corporate overlords. Oh no, first item. Gunther versus AJ Styles feud continues. Another week of more bullshit from Gunth. After I uploaded last week's podcast, I realized I didn't even bother mentioning how AJ got screwed over when Gunther tapped last week. I guess that's how over this feud I am. One thing I'm realizing is that there's moments like this one where I have to remember that WWE really targets children. I honestly don't blame them. If you can sell a kid your product, the parents pretty much sold unless they really can't afford it. So this is the only way I've been able to make sense of Gunther both being somebody who is able to accept and be cool with the fact that he got a dirty win like he did last week, and also being the same person who is also easily frustrated when somebody calls him out for tapping out like a bitch, like when AJ does it. So I honestly don't think a real adult would be that bothered by getting a pass, which is all that this was. If we want to avoid getting into nitpicking kayfabe and how they can at least try to make the motivations more rooted in reality if they don't want to protect it anymore. Honestly, now Gunther's angle is even more dumb, given that he refused to give Styles a rematch until he agrees to a retirement stipulation. I mean, Michael Cole even brings up that AJ said he was going to retire this year anyway. So what now? Like he retires a few months earlier than planned if he accepts the stipulation and loses? I mean, seeing AJ's video game collection, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I've seen some like videos of him showing, I think it was Xavier Woods, but I don't think that man would get bored if he retired a few months early. But WWE is obviously going to follow through with this angle. So yeah, we're going to watch Gunther in another retirement match. I honestly just think it's a shit matchup, and I'd much rather see someone who doesn't slow down the pace of the match that someone like AJ can work at. Somebody like Gunther definitely seems to work at a slower pace, and they stay on the ground more, while AJ is like a high flyer and works faster. What I guess the upside is to all this is that I don't think Gunther will be the one to retire AJ. I think that'd be pretty premature, given that the retirement rumors have only been going on since last year. You know, I know AJ probably doesn't want as big of a celebration as they had for John Cena for his retirement, but I still think he'd want to give the fan like a few more months before he actually left. The next item, okay, I was cool with having the Usos come out last week to just yeet and cut a promo about how they're going to run the tag team division this year and everything, because it was kind of funny, but pretty much again this week with Jay, I don't know, man, it's just stupid. So Jay comes out to the ring, putting everyone on notice, saying he's going to be in the Royal Rumble, and then just leaves. Like, I get it's only in a couple weeks. Neither him nor Big Jim are going to wrestle until then. Like, they're just going to coast until they're going to come out and like remind people that they're going to be there. Okay, the next item. The Vision versus Luchadors, meaning Rey Mysterio, Penta, and Dragon Lee, is still being dragged on. I just think this is lazy, given that lately it seems like it's always some combination of the three guys in the Vision who aren't Braun Breaker versus some combination of these three luchadors. The upside is that the luchadors actually win their matches. And not only that, like when they get the upper hand due to the Vision's own hijinks, like trying to use brass knuckles against them this week, but resulting in Penta actually getting a hold of them and using them instead. That stuff's pretty funny. If WWE takes this matchup to like Saturday night's main event at Royal Rumble, I'm honestly going to just skip past it at this point because I think this beef should really be over, and I just see it as a waste of time using these matches to just kill time, basically. Next item. I think I spoke too soon on being okay with Bayley and Lyra as a tag team lately. I swear I always seem to ease up on my negativity towards them when they actually wrestle. But every time these two are just doing a stupid backstage cut, I swear, it's so cringy. This week is the same. A fairly pointless moment with the both of them backstage basically agreeing they're okay with each other entering and potentially winning this year's Women's Royal Rumble. Sure, cool. And then the last item, which is kind of disappointing, but luckily we heard some better news on. Javon Evans' injury this week during his match against El Grande Americano. Javon Evans apparently was injured. Pretty sure it was legit and didn't catch what potentially could have caused it. Hoping it's not serious, but the update and the upside since Monday is that the match was ended as a precautionary measure, and we're happy to hear reports that Javon should be back fairly soon. So that's good. Moving on to Ooh Yeah. First item, Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Becky Lynch versus Maxine Dupree. Maxine just keeps looking and working more and more confidently in ring. There were definitely times in this match where I forgot that Maxine's journey as a wrestler pretty much only started a few months ago, especially moments where she seemed to have several spots in succession to execute. Man, and that like step up leg drop, that was nasty. While I did feel like the camera dwelled on Natalya earlier in the program, I'll admit that I didn't expect creative to run a storyline where Natalya would betray Maxine. I mean, I think it was well known to anyone keeping up with what happens outside of TV that Becky was training Maxine. So I understand that they were basically trying to imply AJ Lee was training her in kayfabe. So yeah, I did find it interesting that WWE ran a few vignettes of Natalya training Maxine during a few of the episodes of SmackDown late last year. I'm not really sure if she actually had a hand in it. I think she might have in Maxine's actual training, but I'm genuinely interested in learning more about Natalya's motivations as far as like the character goes. Since I know she's been working in the Indies and AAA as Natty, and their character has been really cool, but I haven't been aware of any plan to bring her back on WWE programming. And I do think this is a great way to maybe introduce the Natty Neidhart character, or at least like rework Natalya's character on WWE to be more like that character. Next item, I'm really enjoying this build up to what will hopefully be the Judgment Day split. I love Raquel Rodriguez going after the Women's World Championship, and it's hilarious that she's referring to herself as Big Sexy since her rise pretty much started after Kevin Nash was talking about her. We obviously remember as Big Sexy Kevin Nash from his wrestling career. I think Liv Morgan doing the whole a low-key diss for every compliment thing with Roxanne Perez was pretty funny. It looks like this is where the split probably is going to start from, because just continuing what we assume was previously planned, the whole rivalry between these two prior to Liv's legit injury. I think it still makes more sense than any other angle I can think of for the root cause in this faction, especially while the men's side of the faction seems pretty quiet. I've generally felt positive about this storyline, but I will say that if I don't see JD McDonough and especially Dom by the couple weeks like leading up to the actual split happening on TV, I'll definitely feel otherwise. Next item. Speaking of splits, is one being teased for the Kabuki Warriors? Or is this really just a declaration from Kairi that she'll make sure Asuka wins the Women's Royal Rumble? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I somehow think it's only the latter, since I honestly feel like most fans enjoy both of these women better as a tag team, at least for now, since they actually made them work as one in the WWE and they held the championships for a while. Last item. While we might not know where JD or Dom are, it's great to see Finn Balor back on top again, challenging CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship in this episode. And scheduling this for Belfast, Ireland, his motherland, I definitely feel was a great choice, given how loud the crowd was to see their guy at the main event picture again. Honestly, a little less than a decade ago, this match could have been a main event PLE match. You can tell both of these men put forth everything they had for the main event that night. Great, respectful ending for both of the guys. Honestly, this match with Punk is a great setup for an easy pivot back to face for Balor, if creative wants to do that. As I'm sure I've mentioned in a previous episode, I was a big fan of Balor's run like 10 years ago, which was before I even dug into his career over in Japan. So I'm just glad he's back where I and probably others feel like he deserves to be. As far as the main event conversation goes, I think the Judgment Day has been a great as a faction, but I also think they've really done everything they could with it already. That does it for Raw. Weirdly, at least for me, this felt like another week where Raw wasn't the high point for WWE's main roster shows. While I have admitted there's probably a lot more shiny new stuff happening over on SmackDown, this week really seemed to highlight some of the points of stagnation that I'm at least feeling with Raw, namely the need to keep the Vision occupied with Braun Breaker being suspended and everything, and not really having the Usos wrestle since making them the tag team champions again, and the Gunther versus AJ Styles feud, which seems to now be setting up the most inconsequential retirement match ever. However, I will say I'm way more excited about what's to potentially come from a lot of the ooh yeah items for Raw than I am disappointed in the direction of the show overall, so maybe the feeling is just temporary. Regardless of how I feel about SmackDown or Raw, I am just preparing myself for what I'm fairly certain will be mid-episodes of both shows, given the upcoming events we have, which are this coming Saturday, January 24th, Saturday night's main event in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The matches announced so far are WWE Women's Tag Team Championship between Rhea Ripley and Io Sky defending against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. We got a Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu match. And then we have the Fatal 4-Way match for undisputed WWE Championship #1 contender between Randy Orton, Trick Williams, Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn. That card is still subject to change, but I honestly don't know how they'd be able to make any worthwhile updates at this point, given the only go-home show we have left for this event is SmackDown the day before the event. And if anything, I would be trying to fit another match with Raw talent on there. And then next Saturday, January 31st, we got Royal Rumble in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. There are no official matches announced so far, but obviously we got both men and women's Royal Rumble, and there's been some declarations on the TV shows this week. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm really excited for the next 2 weeks since I'll finally have some events to talk about on the podcast for the first time. If you're familiar with my other podcast, We Should Pod That I do with my girlfriend Ashley, this podcast is actually a spin-off of that, so maybe I can get her on next week's or the week after that, since she really misses the weekend events and she'll definitely have something to say about them. In the meantime, make sure to follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, subscribe and like. You can also hit me up on social media, all of which you can find in the description. Have a great week. I'll see you on the flip side.
Down. enough to win. We got to live on with our